So you've got your design, you've did 2 practice ones, you've settled on what you like, you've practiced with color, and now we've got to address the background. What I would suggest is looking at, if you haven't already, so look at examples of graffiti sketches. We have these links available to you, and these are fun because graffiti artists keep sketchbooks in practice before they go paint on a wall. That's very normal. I have some great graffiti books in my classroom, which of course are not here. But you can see even something like this. They're using complementary colors. They've got their shadowing, both with the black and then again with the blue. And then to bring out that color blue, they put some orange in there, surrounded by green. So use inspiration. We'll talk, for my next sketch, we'll talk about how to do some symbols. But I'm just going to start with shapes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe start adding some like paint splatters. And so paint splatter is going to kind of come off the letter, and maybe it's a little wavy. You can see I'm drawing to fill the space. If I go through letter and I decide actually I want it to look like it's behind, I just erase. So what I did was I copied my name on the computer and then I printed it a couple times. So I can't erase what I've done already, but you guys all can. So I just have to draw on top. This way I could show you lots of different ideas. I'm going to add kind of like a paint blob over here. And if you change up the size of the shapes that you draw, then you can get more of that painterly design. So I got like a splatter going this way, and I am looking at one of the examples to kind of borrow some ideas from there, although I'm not copying it exactly. So maybe I've got some blobs here. If you're good at drawing circles, cool. Just rotate. You have to do it a couple times and then erase your extra lines. Or, of course, I've got some hand sanitizer bottles. What a surprise. I can plop that down and I can trace around it. So this works for any shapes that you might want and just want to trace it. So maybe I'll go ahead and do some more of these little circles. Again, changing up the sizes and spreading them out so they fill the space. I can also freehand some, continue to trace, find other things to trace if I'm focusing on the shapes. I'm also looking to see if there are any spaces that feel empty, and I will fill those spaces. So I'm really trying to address all these different areas. So it almost looks kind of outer spacey actually. Maybe I'll turn that into Saturn. There you go. If there are any parts of your design you don't like, just erase it. Not a fan of this straight line that I drew since everything else is so rounded. I drew lightly, that way I could erase. That's why using a pencil is going to work the best for this. I'm noticing once I do that, I've got some blank areas to fill in. I'm still keeping my design most dense or clustered near my letters, and then as I move away from the letters, I will also scatter out some more shapes. For my next idea, I'm going to show you all how to do a brick wall because that's usually pretty popular. I'm going to go ahead and use my design that doesn't have its shadows yet, so I can remind you how to do those. So for this one, I'm going to do an outline shadow. So you can see where I'm going around each of my letters, and I'm trying to keep about the same distance. So you can see where when a letter changed shape, I changed shape as well. So if the 3D one seemed, too challenging, that's fine. You can do something like this. You can even do like a second layer of this, or you can be like, ooh, I'm just gonna add like some extra here, maybe kind of change it up a little bit, and maybe some extra here. So then to do a brick wall, you're gonna need some kind of straight edge. If you have a ruler, obviously that would make the most sense, but just because you don't have a ruler doesn't mean your life is over. What I did here was I folded a piece of paper in half, and I'm going to use this. So I'm going to set it down. When I make straight lines, or to make straight lines, what I do is I line up the edge of the paper or ruler with the edge of my paper, and I kind of look to see, okay, does that look straight? That should help. And then I'm going to lean my pencil into whatever the straight edge is. Now I could draw right on top of my name, or if I can tell what's going on, I could skip over it. And then I'm going to come down. I want to keep about the same distance. You can, of course, measure this out, but I'm guessing you don't feel like doing that, so you have to eyeball it. The other thing you can do, if you have a ruler, you can just trace the ruler, or if you happen to have just like a strip of paper, you can do it that way too to keep them all the same. I'm okay if they're a little bit different. Again, just going behind everything. It looks like I could use one more towards the bottom here. Okay, so I've got mine going across, and now I'm going to do the pattern going up and down. So this is where you're going to do every other one. I like to be able to see what I'm doing, so I'm actually going to start on the right side and work my way to the left. If you're left-handed, like this, you would start on the left side. So I'll draw up and down. So I draw, skip, draw, skip, draw, skip. For my next one, I'm going to do the opposite. So you can see why it's helpful to work in such a way that you can see what you just did. Draw, skip, draw, skip, draw. So if there's already been a vertical line or that up and down line, I'm not drawing there yet. So I'm going to slide it over, and now I'm going to draw on the same path I drew before in the same stripe. So draw, skip, draw, skip, draw, skip. Do the same thing again. Skip, draw, skip, draw, skip, draw. So it's a little trickier since so much is unseen, but if I mess up a little bit, you know what? Nobody's going to notice because everything else is going to just knock their socks off and they won't know what hit them. Ooh, I'm realizing, okay, there, oh, nope, you know what? You can't even see it. So I got it. So there's my brick wall. It helps to do larger bricks, so you're not doing all these teeny tiny little lines. So for my last design, I am going to use symbols. So instead of just doing a pattern or like a shaped design, although this one I started inserting some symbols in there because that's where my brain went. But maybe I'm going to use things that I personally like and show a little bit more about me. So as an artist, so I could start just by listing words of things that I like, things that I do. So maybe you consider yourself an artist, or you are really interested in sports, maybe specifically basketball. And maybe you have a favorite season or time of year, so maybe you really like summer. And then I can think of a symbol to go for each one. So for summer, I think of a really warm sun. Basketball, I could do a hoop. I could do a basketball shoe. I'm going to go nice and easy here with a basketball, and then as an artist, we'll do a paintbrush. So I could consider including these symbols in my graffiti artwork. So if I'm looking something up, if you remember from one of our other lessons, I could look up paintbrush and then type also the word simple if I wanted to start with something easier. So I got paintbrush, simple, and then I'll see some different options. I can scroll through until I find something I like. So I kind of just like this simple design, and then I can make it more complicated if I want to. But I'm going to have that off here to the right. So put my image right next to where I'm drawing, and I'm going to look for the shapes. If I'm kind of unsure, I can draw lightly and do a sketching line. That would be a line that is shorter. Alright, so I've got my paintbrush, and maybe that would be an excuse to have some like color dripping down the letter. So there it is, and maybe it's even dripping off the letter. I can use some of those shapes from before. And maybe I also want to include a basketball over here in this corner. I don't really feel like drawing a circle, so I'm going to find something round. A cup would work well. A candle, I'm actually going to use the base of a paint bottle because, you know, I'm in my studio. But a cup or a bowl would work really well for doing a circle. I'm going to trace it. I'm going to erase where it goes on top of the letters. And yeah, I messed up there. That's okay. We'll just fix that. Okay. I can never remember, and neither can students, the direction of basketball lines. And so if you don't have everything memorized in the entire world, which I imagine you don't, despite even if you love basketball, looking it up is super helpful. Because you've got, like, if you're looking at it from one way, it looks a certain way, from another way. So you can just decide which way you like best. I kind of like this one because it's a little bit of both. So then I can use that. So I'm going to swing. To get that swing, I'm going to swing at my wrist, since it's a small one, and get that curve. You can also try tracing something again. Then we've got the top one. The middle one curves down. I go right through my letters and erase. And then the bottom one goes up and down. So I've got a basketball. I've got a paintbrush. Do I want a sun? Meh. I'm actually going to, instead of doing a sun, I'm just going to use that kind of like waves in my design. So I'm going to do my waves, I think. I'm trying to decide if I want to do them in the letter or behind it. Well, since we're talking about background, I will have them go behind. So my name, basketball, and everything is just sort of floating in the water. So I'm kind of imagining it. Most of it's going to be going behind. So it's almost just like a bumpy line, like that. So that would be using symbols to create my designs, using a pattern, and then for my shadowing I did an outline. And this is more using shapes, although I did end up adding a symbol. That's just sort of what happened. But you could just focus on shapes. Again, look at graffiti artists to see some ideas, think about the things you like, and then from here you're going to begin working with some color before you start your final.